There is a game coming to early access in 2026, and the more I learn about it, the harder it is to keep my expectations in check. On paper, it sounds incredible. A 100-player tactical FPS, a 256 square kilometer map, destructible environments, base building, helicopters, tanks, persistent cash economy that carries over between matches. Yeah, it's ambitious and it's bold. And it's coming from Bulkhead, a small indie studio based in Derby, England. They're a studio with a complicated history that you absolutely need to know about before you hand over your money. This is WARDOGS, and this is everything you need to know. WARDOGS is described by the developer Bulkhead as a tactical, all-out warfare FPS. 100 players are split across 3 teams, all fighting for control of a central zone. It's set in the derelict industrial mountains of Eastern Europe on a destructible battlefield where, as they put it, cash is king. Right from the announcement, Bulkhead made a point of telling us what WARDOGS is not. It's not a battle royale, it's not an extraction shooter. They want you to know that this is something different. A new take on large-scale warfare that they're calling all-out warfare. So, how does it actually work? Well, the game mode is inspired by Arma 3's community-created mod, King of the Hill, with 3 teams fighting for control of a randomized 2x2 kilometer central zone within a 256 kilometer square map. The team with the most players within that control zone earns the points, and the first to reach 100 wins. At the heart of it all is a persistent cash system. Every life costs money, every team play action earns it, and your balance carries over between matches. There's no one way to play, earn, or progress. You can chase the hot zone to earn double cash, purchase a ghillie suit and snipe from a distance, ferry supplies by helicopter, or fortify a choke point by building your own forward operating base. You can man an artillery tank and rain destruction on the enemy. There are really no set rules of engagement in WARDOGS. Bulkhead has also confirmed there will be no battle pass, no egregious skins, and no pay-to-win elements. Cosmetics are earned by playing, and in 2026, I really do think devs need to say that one out loud. WARDOGS really is wearing its influences on its sleeve, and for me, they're genuinely exciting ones. The core game mode, as mentioned, draws directly from the Arma 3 modding community. Bulkhead is actually building WARDOGS in collaboration with the original King of the Hill mod creator Sumatra. That's not just inspiration, that's a genuine collaboration with the people who built the template. Beyond that, the DNA here is clearly pulling from other games that you'll recognize like Arma in general, DayZ, Squad, Hell Let Loose. Titles where the emergent story of a match is the point, where a helicopter pilot ferrying troops across a contested mountain range creates a memory that so many scripted campaigns have tried to over the years. To power all of this, Bulkhead have built their own proprietary War Dynamics framework built on top of Unreal Engine, designed specifically to support large-scale player-driven warfare. A bespoke engine built from scratch specifically for this vision, that is one hell of a commitment. So, the core loop of this game does sound interesting, but what is it that's going to keep you logging in 3 months after launch? What about 6 months? What about a year? This is where WARDOGS gets genuinely ambitious in ways that go beyond most shooters in this space. Bulkhead has outlined an entire metagame layer being built during early access, and it's worth breaking down because it's unlike anything you typically expect from a game like this. First of all, there's the gold exchange, the cash you bank across matches that can be optionally converted into gold bars, which is the game's endgame currency. The twist is that the exchange rate fluctuates daily. So every time you log in, you're making a decision: invest now or wait for a better rate. It's a small but clever system that makes simply opening the game feel more meaningful. And at the end of each season, your cash and XP, they reset, giving new players a more level playing field against veterans, but your gold bars and any cosmetics you've earned stay on your account permanently. Then there's player skills. As you rank up, you earn skill points that can be invested into permanent account-wide abilities tied to your preferred playstyle. So a medic can unlock faster revives, pilots can optimize their fuel efficiency, infantry players can refine weapon handling, and so on. These don't reset between seasons, meaning long-term players genuinely feel their time investment paying off. Then there's the challenge system, which adds short-term goals that reward you for exploring different playstyles, feeding different resources into what is arguably the most ambitious part of the whole metagame, the black market. Now, the black market is where things start to get pretty wild. Bulkhead wants you to be able to bribe arms dealers to smuggle weapons overnight, place wagers on your own in-match performance, and perhaps most ambitiously, invest cash into running your own in-game business between sessions. Yeah, this is real. So you can buy out a weapons manufacturer and you can produce your preferred loadout items at a discount. Unlock high-value items and sell them to other players in-match at your own markup, and you'll also be competing with other player-run supply crates on price. It's an entirely optional layer, but for players who want to min-max their earnings across a season, the potential depth here is extraordinary. Everything that you accumulate through these systems ends up in your personal vault, a permanent upgradable storage that lets you redeem items for free in future matches. But it's important to be honest here, Bulkhead themselves acknowledge that the metagame is a work in progress and it won't be fully in place on day one of early access this year. This is just the vision, not the launch product. Whether they can execute it at the level they're describing is one of the most important questions hanging over WARDOGS right now, I think. But the very fact that this design exists and that the foundations are reportedly already in is at least an encouraging sign. But who is WARDOGS for, really? I hear you ask, because I asked the same thing. And when you look a bit closer, you start to kind of figure out that answer for yourself. WARDOGS takes the scale and the chaos of Milsim adjacent titles and wraps it up in a more accessible, structured experience. Bulkhead are also very clear about something else. WARDOGS is not a battlefield killer, nor is it trying to be. As I mentioned in today's new developer video, the game has its own identity, and that identity is built on friction. There's no squad spawn system, meaning you can't just blink back onto your friends when you die. You have to make your way back to them. Gunplay includes bullet drop, penetration, ricocheting bullets, which means every shot requires thought. And because your loadout costs money, every death has a financial consequence. The more kit you bring in, the more it hurts to lose it. Their persistent cash economy will also appeal to anyone who likes that long game, strategic thinking. It's rewarding you for being good at the game across sessions. Smart players will compound their advantages over time, which adds to a layer of depth that pure arcade shooters just simply don't have. And if you're someone who has been waiting on a large-scale multiplayer shooter that isn't a battle royale and isn't a looter shooter, and it doesn't make you feel like you gotta grind a battle pass, then I would say pay attention to this game. So you know what it is, but why should you be excited? Well, when you strip it all back, WARDOGS is genuinely trying to do something that almost nobody else is doing in the multiplayer FPS space. There's also something quite refreshing about Bulkhead's current situation because they're now independently owned by the developers themselves again, which follows a separation from Tencent, which has restored full creative control to Bulkhead. This is a team that are building a game they actually want to build. And in today's video, they stated directly that if WARDOGS settles somewhere between 3,000 and 10,000 daily concurrent players, that's a win. They referred to Squad and Hell Let Loose as their benchmarks, games that are built with a strong identity for a specific audience, still being played by thousands of players every day, years after release. That kind of community, Bulkhead argued, keeps servers active indefinitely and funds continued development simply through the new players buying in over time. That kind of honesty is pretty important. It really does matter, and it means that Bulkhead aren't chasing some unsustainable peak that collapses under its own weight 2 weeks after launch. We've seen enough AAA catastrophes in the last 2 years alone, so it's a relief to know that they're building for longevity, not for headlines. And for the kind of player that WARDOGS is designed for, that's exactly the right mentality. Early access players benefit from getting in at a lower price, and Bulkhead are planning on raising the price at full release to reflect more of the complete experience. Now, I know a lot of us say no pre-orders, so I'm not going to tell you should try and consider that. If it's something that you want to do, go for it. But I'm totally on board with people holding on to their cash and continue to keep tabs on these games until they feel confident enough or convinced to take the plunge and try it out for themselves. Because we've seen it before, we've seen these games, they look great, we get excited, and then stuff goes wrong. And that kind of brings me to my next point, because I feel like we need to have an honest conversation here. Bulkhead are a very talented studio, but they have a history, and if you're going to spend money on their early access game, you deserve to know about it. Battalion 1944 was crowdfunded back in 2016, entering early access in 2018 and officially released in 2019. The project became controversial after Bulkhead failed to deliver the console versions they promised and sold Kickstarter keys for. Thousands of backers were left without a game, and for a long period without communication. The game ended up with a 61% positive score on Steam, which it goes without saying is pretty bad. The community largely abandoned it, and the peak concurrent players as of recently is at about 39 on a good day. The console version was officially cancelled in 2022, with the PC version going free to play. CEO Joe Brammer acknowledged that they couldn't fully deliver on all they promised, and the studio ultimately offered full refunds to every single Kickstarter backer, regardless of what platform are pledged here. That is a rare thing, and it shows accountability, but it doesn't erase the fact that people waited years for a game that never came, with minimal communication along the way. That history matters when you're looking at War Dogs, because War Dogs is even more ambitious than Battalion 1944. The studio themselves estimate 1 to 2 years in early access before full release. That is a long time to maintain momentum, retain a player base, and deliver on promises in a genre where competition is fierce and player attention, let's face it, is pretty fickle. There are other risks worth naming. Multiplayer games live and die by their population, and if War Dogs launches and struggles to hold enough players for the match sizes it promises, the whole thing could fall apart. A 100-player game with 40 concurrent players isn't a game, it's a waiting room. There's also the question of performance. The War Dynamics framework is a proprietary system built on Unreal Engine designed to support large-scale warfare. Building your own engine layer is pretty brave. It's very ambitious, and it's also the kind of decision that can produce extraordinary results or extraordinary instability. Running 100 players, vehicles, destruction, and base building simultaneously on a 256-kilometer square map is a technical mountain that hasn't really been climbed by a studio of this size before. And then there's the meta. Games like this succeed when they build communities that organize, communicate, and play together over the years. So War Dogs, with its chaotic combined arms and player-driven stories, feels better suited to that. A well-timed tank shell taking out an enemy helicopter is the kind of clip that spreads like wildfire. But they're going to need the community to actually be there to create those moments in the first place. So, should you be excited about War Dogs? Yes, genuinely, yeah, I think you should. The vision is pretty compelling. The influences are strong and resonate with a lot of games that I love, and there's clearly real passion behind this project from the studio that has learned a lot of hard lessons over the last 10 years. Their decision to work directly with the original modders of the King of the Hill mod from Arma 3, to build a custom framework, to launch without a battle pass, these are all signals that Bulkhead are really trying to do this properly. But I urge you to go in with your eyes wide open on this one. It's an emergent early access title from a small studio with a complicated past, built on technology that hasn't been tested at scale. The ceiling is very high, but so is the floor. Watch the pre-alpha coverage, see how the servers hold, see how Bulkhead communicates when things go wrong, because in early access, things always go wrong. And then, once you've seen all that, make your decision. War Dogs is definitely one of the most interesting things happening in the multiplayer FPS space right now. Whether it becomes one of the best is a story that's still being written. Hopefully that gives you guys a general feel of War Dogs. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching this far. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!